Thank you so much, Perina, for a most generous introduction and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I would also like to thank Khaki Foundation for giving me this opportunity to speak about the work of my organization and myself for the past 20 years. It's been such a long journey. So over the next 40 minutes, I'd like to showcase some of the models, some of our keystone projects being done by CERE, and hopefully empower each and every one of you to start taking action. I think it's so important, especially in the face of climate change and global warming, that is affecting every country, every city. And I think the time to start taking action is now. So if I could start sharing my screen as well. So for the next 40 minutes, I'd like to showcase some of the work being done by CERE. And as Perina mentioned, we've been working to start taking action in all the fields of environmental sustainability. Urban afforestation, where we try to green our concrete jungle, and Mumbai is really suffering as more and more development projects are being undertaken. Our green cover has been decreasing dramatically over the past few years. We also face a lot of energy demands. And again, the aim is to promote renewable energy. And one of our keystone projects has been Switch on Solar, SOS, because it's really SOS time. We need to start looking at the impact energy consumption takes on this planet Earth. Rainwater harvesting. As we all know, water is a very precious and rare resource. Across India, states are fighting amongst one another for fresh water, be it Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh for the Narmada waters, the Kaveri waters, Brahmaputra. In fact, India and China are facing a lot of diplomatic tension for the waters of Brahmaputra. So I really believe fresh water is going to be the next major resource that we would need to start conserving very quickly. And finally, looking at our carbon footprint. We all know we have a huge carbon footprint as a species on this planet. And what are the sort of carbon management systems that we now need to start putting in place to achieve our carbon goals? As you know, India is signatory to a number of international protocols to start looking at carbon net zero. How are we going to start achieving that in our personal lives, in our professional lives? And finally, publications, because I think it's so important to start educating the future generation, because they are going to inherit a planet with very limited natural resources, and they're going to have to learn to survive with very little. So it's important that we start educating them, giving them the skills required to really survive on a planet with very little. So looking at our first project, urban afforestation. We've been working on this project since 2015. And the aim has really been to start greening our concrete jungles. And we've been planting trees across cities in India. Not only Mumbai, where we started the project, but then we moved on to Delhi, Gurgaon, Calcutta, Bangalore, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, you name it, 24 cities we've started planting. And we only plant native species because it's native species that offer an ecological service. It's native species that are going to improve the biodiversity. As I always say, you don't plant a tree, you actually create an ecosystem. You support biodiversity. And we've managed to plant over 214 different native species. So it's really to start bringing back our indigenous species that will soon become extinct as well. And in that process, we have managed to sequester over 45,000 tons of carbon dioxide. So it's so much less carbon dioxide that is being emitted into the environment, which is being also absorbed by these trees. And as you all know, carbon dioxide is one of the greenhouse gases that is driving climate change and global warming. And we now need to start looking at ways in how to recapture the carbon that we have been putting out into the environment since the Industrial Revolution. And I think one of the best ways forward is really to start planting trees. And we've planted over 192,000 trees in these past 5 years with the help of corporate support, with the help of their CSR funds, personal donations. And if you look at Mumbai city, for all the Mumbaikars, these would be very common locations. We've been planting at Colaba Woods, Malad, Goregaon, SGNP, which is the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, Titwala, which is near Thane, and Dungarwadi. And I'd like to use Dungarwadi as an example, because that's where we've been working. I've personally been planting trees in Dungarwadi. And Dungarwadi is the Parsi Tower of Silence. It is one of the last green lungs, the last green spot left in South Mumbai. And of course, being in a very polluted city, the forest was under a lot of stress when I started working in that. And how slowly planting a lot of native saplings, the forest, given half an opportunity, has bounced back. So I'd like to show a very short video to take you through the journey of what it means to revive a forest. And I hope all these slides of mine, all the little videos that I show you, empower you to start taking action as a community as well. Is it audible? Yeah.
When I first entered Dungarwadi, the forest was under a lot of stress and rather degraded, being situated in one of the most polluted cities of the world. I started with one small corner plot of 5 acres of land by first removing the additional termite load, reintroducing large native tree saplings, introducing a good watering system. And slowly, over the past 5 years, I've seen the forest revive. I've seen it rejuvenate itself. The forest is alive, it's vibrant. And I think this is possible only because the community came together as a whole. The Mumbaikar Panchayat were very supportive of my initiative. Individual Parsis donated towards this project, and today the forest serves as an example of how a community can come together to start greening our concrete jungles. I truly believe that nature has an amazing ability to bounce back if we only gave it that one opportunity. I think communities need to come together to start greening their concrete jungles, to start reviving forests. Biodiversity is required for our survival.
Thank you, Victor. I'll continue the presentation now. So this is the work we've been doing in Mumbai city. And I really feel if every citizen of this city could also do their little bit, and it could mean just something as small as creating your own personal garden at home, even if it's on your terrace, if it's on your balcony. We need to start creating these little microcosms of biodiversity. Or you could volunteer. You could donate to tree plantation drives. And very often there are a number of initiatives being undertaken in every city, because really we need to start increasing our green cover. You could also engage with the local community or corporators who can start planning plantations on open lands. We've been now trying to contact MIDC, which is the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation. We've approached the Forest Department. We work a lot even with the armed forces, because the army has large tracts of land in Mumbai and cities. We work with any religious institution that has open space, not only the Parsi community, but we've planted with churches, we've planted in a number of areas. We've also encouraged students and schools to start planting. And you could do that with your own institutions. If your child goes to a school, you could approach the principal and see if they could help you plant a few trees along the periphery of the school garden, of the school quadrangle. It could even be on the school terrace. Or if you're a corporate and you're working in a large corporate house, start engaging with the CSR department of your company. And maybe you can look at initiating tree plantation drives in factory premises, even in office and commercial complexes. So I really think it's important to utilize every little bit of open space to start growing trees. And very often people tell me, oh, what difference will one tree make? But actually, one tree does make a difference. And we now need to find every little open corner and start planting trees. Otherwise, the trend over the past many years has just been concretization. We find concrete being laid out for car parking spaces, for every little thing. But a tree will easily be cut down. So I think if each of us can start thinking about where can we start planting trees in our own neighborhood, the cumulative impact of that would definitely make a great, great difference. Trees actually control microclimates. It just might be a little cooler if we have more trees. And all of us in Mumbai know we've been battling a mini heat wave over the past few days. And I think it's also the island effect, the heat island effect, that constantly raises our temperature of the city. So sit back, give a thought on where you can plant your next tree, and that would be your contribution to your city. Another area that we've been working on is promoting renewable energy. And our project is known as Switch On Solar, where we have been helping a number of charitable institutions start adopting renewable energy in the form of solar panels, rooftop solar installations. And this project started a couple of years ago. And in the last 2 years, we have already solar electrified 25 institutions. And they've ranged from schools, offices, hospitals. We started this project a year before COVID struck. And at that time, we had started solar electrifying schools. And SOS actually stood for Schools on Solar. And then the COVID pandemic hit and schools were shut. And we were wondering, where can we start making an impact and helping the medical field? And that's when we started solar electrifying hospitals. And our very first hospital that we solar electrified was the Sanjeevani Children's Cardiac Care Hospital here in Mumbai. And it's amazing how much savings they've been able to do over the last 2 years, which then helped them extend more medical facilities to needy patients. So now we've started off solar electrifying hospitals. We've done a hospital in Pune. We're looking at another 2 hospitals in this year. And slowly, institutions are benefiting. So it's not only the number of units of electricity saved. So 25 institutions have saved over 29.2 million units of electricity. And that's a huge number. But they've also had a lot of financial savings. Minute your electricity bill drops, from those savings, you can start improving medical facilities, educational facilities, and helping the beneficiaries far more. And simultaneously, of course, there'll always be a great impact on the carbon. So the less coal that is utilized in our thermal power plants, when you switch over to solar, the less pollution there is, the better is the environment. So we've managed to sequester almost 23,950 metric tons of carbon dioxide with just 25 institutions. And I truly believe that as we start adopting solar energy more and more, we will have a great positive impact on the environment. And definitely in India, where even the policy is pushing you to start looking at renewable energy. India has its own solar mission. The Prime Minister of India is pushing for India to lead the solar mission across the world. So sit back and think on how you can start adopting renewable energy in your own lives. And these are a few examples that we have done over the past couple of years. Pandey School, Sabu Siddiq Polytechnic. This is the installation I spoke about, the Satya Sai Sanjeevani Hospital, Sophia College, HDFC office as well here in Churchgate. And I'll take the example of HDFC. Here is a corporate who, instead of just doing CSR and looking outward, they've actually started greening their own systems and processes. Instead of just talking about solar electrification, they've started solar electrifying every office building of theirs, not only in Mumbai, but across India. And this is an example of corporate leadership. So if you work in a corporate, take back these ideas and see if they can be implemented, because they make complete sense. It's financially very profitable, it's environmentally sustainable, and it's socially equitable. Because the less electricity we utilize in our cities, there will be more to go around in rural India. Take the example of Dahanu. Our electricity in Mumbai, suburban Mumbai, comes from Dahanu, which is approximately 120 kilometers north of Mumbai. Our electricity comes from Dahanu Taluka, And it's all being used to power Mumbai, which is lit up like a Christmas tree. But in Dano, they still have power cuts of over 5 and 6 hours every single day. So if we start consuming less electricity, there'll be more to go around in rural India. And again, so these are some of the sites that we have solar electrified through our Switch on Solar project. Moving on. So what can we do in our own personal lives? The few tips that can actually have a huge impact. And I know all of these will sound, very basic, and you'd think, we studied all of this in school, but it really has an impact. There is this multiplication factor where if all of us decide to switch off all the extra appliances, the lights and fans when not in use, it's going to cut down on our electricity dependence. A small thing like just switching on and keeping your air conditioning to 23 and to 24 degrees Celsius instead of keeping it as low as 18 degrees, where we really don't need to, keep all our homes and offices so freezing cold. If we can start investing in renewable sources of energy, and I think I've exhibited where now the return on investment, if you install solar, is as low as 3 to 5 years. Initially, when the solar panels were introduced, the technology hadn't developed and return on investment was as high as 8 to 10 years. But now, with 5th generation slim solar panels that generate across a much wider light spectrum, where they generate early in the morning, late in the evening, towards dusk and dawn, the ROIs have reduced to 3 to 5 years. And the panels will last you actually 25 years. So then it's only savings for the next 18, 20 years. So do look if you can start adopting solar energy in your lifestyle. Small things like using public transport as often as possible, looking at all our energy needs, taking the stairs once in a while instead of the elevator all the time, buying local products so that there is a lower transportation cost. When you think about energy, don't only think about electricity. Look at all fossil fuel, whether it is petrol, whether it is diesel, whether it is corporate travel. Corporate air travel contributes a lot to your carbon footprint. So look at every aspect of your personal and professional life and see if you can become a little more eco-friendly. If you can reduce your carbon footprint by that little bit more, it's going to have a huge impact. And moving on quickly to water. As I mentioned, I strongly believe we need to start conserving our freshwater resources. And it's not only the surface water, but even our groundwater resource. Because the groundwater has taken years and years to build up. But across India, we can see that the groundwater table has decreased. About 50 years ago, the average groundwater table level was about 50 meters low. Now, you can hit a bore well even at 200, and you may not hit water. So we've been sucking our groundwater table dry, and it's time that we start harvesting rainwater. And especially in a city like Mumbai, where we are blessed with so much water, we get over 2,000 millimeters of rainfall every monsoon. We get flooded during the monsoon. But immediately afterwards, even by December and January, we start getting water cuts. We run short of our water, all because we've not captured our surface water and we've just allowed it to drain away, just flow into our sewerage system, just flow into the sea. And we've lost the golden opportunity to harvest fresh water. Water on which we are solely dependent as a species. You cannot live without water. And it's sad that minute we start getting water cuts, the first thing we do is we have to rely on tanker water. And these water tankers are getting the water supply from our groundwater table. And they're just sucking dry And that is really a water security. That is the water security of our city and of our country. So it's really important to start rainwater harvesting projects. Cities like Chennai in India have made it mandatory. And I think even in Mumbai, it is mandatory, but it truly needs to be done at a much larger scale. And I'm happy to say that CERE as an organization, we've created Mumbai city's largest rainwater harvesting system in partnership with Mumbai Police at their armed headquarters here, right close to Dadar, near Naigaon. We've created Pune city's largest rainwater harvest system, which is Mumbai city was 38.8 million liters of water. Pune was 41.2 million liters of water. And Nashik was our largest project, where we have harvested 171 million liters of water. Every monsoon season, that is the volume of water that we have been harvesting. 261.1 million liters of water annually, just through 3 projects. And this shows it's so easy to implement, and you can harvest millions and millions of liters of water. So look if you can implement even a small rainwater harvesting system in your building complex, in your community premises. And again, the financial savings will be huge, because with rising costs of water, you can see our water costs are rising every year because it's becoming more and more expensive, being a precious resource. And of course, the financial savings will be there. And these are some of our sites that we have been working. We undertake different techniques. If we are recharging the groundwater table, we create percolation pits, we create percolation trenches, we recharge dry, defunct bore wells, open wells. It's really ensuring that every drop of water that lands on this surface, that lands on our ground, is absorbed. It just shouldn't get wasted and go into our sewerage systems and reach the sea. Every precious drop of water needs to be harvested. And if time permitting, I could show you another small video as well after the question answer session. So again, these are very minor tips that I'll, like to keep highlighting. And very often we forget about it. We forget about every leaking tap in our home. We forget about taking shorter showers, and the volume of water that can be lost in a long shower is just crazy, especially when you can do with a shorter shower. There is now new technology where you can change the shower head that restricts flow, have a dual flushing system in our toilets. But most importantly is start practicing rainwater harvesting. Try to save every precious drop that falls on this land. And that's if you can start conserving. But I think it's also important to look at your water footprint. How much water goes into manufacturing every single product that we use? And that's something that we very often forget. So the more waste we generate, we're actually just not throwing away waste, we're actually throwing away water, because water would have been utilized in manufacturing that item, be it food, be it the clothes that we wear, be it the cell phone that we use. Water is utilized in every manufacturing process. So think about all the waste that we generate and all the water that we lose with it. And these are the sort of dots I'd like you to connect in environment. We shouldn't only think about trees in isolation or energy in isolation, or just look at water. Start connecting the dots where every action has a reaction. And moving on to carbon map and cap. This is an initiative that CERE has been pursuing since many years, because you can only manage what you can map. So in this project, what we do is we help large companies undertake their carbon footprint through our initiative known as Carbon Map and Cap. And once you do the carbon footprinting and you know what the carbon footprint is, only then can you start putting mitigation strategies into action. And we worked with a number of companies who are leading this initiative, who are looking at the carbon footprint, who are pledging to become carbon neutral by 2030 or by 2050, who are looking at the triple bottom line as opposed to just looking at their financial profits. It's no longer acceptable or tenable only to look at your financial profits. You need to start looking at the impact you have on the environment, on your social impact as well. And that's where now everyone's talking more about ESG, environment, social, and governance. We've also undertaken a lot of employee volunteering programs, where really we want employees of companies to start driving the sustainability journey of companies. It shouldn't be a top-down approach where it's only senior management who will pass diktats for employees to follow. It's the employee who needs to feel that, yes, I'm working for a company that is environmentally responsible, and this is what I need to do in my little way. It could be at your department, it could be at the shop floor level, but where every employee starts taking their environmental responsibilities also seriously, and the company offers them that platform to do so. And finally, before I end, we've been publishing and working in the field of environmental education right since inception. So one of our very first projects was really talking about environmental education. How do we get our future generations to start learning about the environment? And as my colleague very often mentions, it's not enough to just have the 3 R's of education and literacy. That's reading, writing, arithmetic. It's so important to have the 4th R, which is resource literacy. We really need to start becoming knowledgeable on how to manage our natural resources, the water, the energy, the minerals. All of them are in short supply. So we need to start managing and improving our systems and processes. And we've sold over 1.62 million copies of our publications. Our books go out to schools across India. We've published 27 titles. They're available online on Amazon. And we really hope to get the message out there to our future generations. So thank you very much for being such a patient audience, for hearing me out. And more importantly, I hope some of these ideas you can take back into your personal and professional lives. You can start practicing environmental sustainability, not only to improve the quality of our life here in Mumbai, but whichever city you live in. It's so important that we start living in sync with nature. So thank you very much. And I'd be happy to take a few questions if we have the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashneh. That was really a wonderful talk. And I think many of us do know these things, and we need to just put them into practice more and more. I do have a couple of questions. Jayanti, who lives in Navi Mumbai, says that she finds that in the name of beautification, a lot of concretization is done, which prevents seepage of rainwater. What can be done for this?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Jayanti, because as I mentioned, all our cities are becoming concretized. And minute we do that, we don't allow the natural rainwater to percolate into our groundwater table. So I think the action needs to come from us citizens and from the community. So just the other day, I got a call from a lady living in the other Parsi colony saying that in our building, suddenly to make space for more cars to be parked, the entire compound has been concretized. They've not even left a little border for a boundary garden. And I think that is where we as residents of building complexes, we as citizens need to start ensuring that we do not allow this sort of concretization to happen. So again, using the other Parsi colony as an example, when the BMC was concretizing around the 5 Gardens area, It was the residents who started protesting. It was the residents who were up in arms and stopped the BMC contractor from working. They made a petition to the local MLA, and they finally got the plans to be changed. So I think it is time that we start raising our voices as concerned citizens to bring about this change. And it's only when we start voicing our opinions, when we start taking the stand, will the concretization stop. So if we make our footpaths, we need to use the interlocking concrete tiles that will allow the water to percolate. So there are so many more options. I think they take the easy way out, and that's what's causing a lot of the environmental problems we face today. So I completely agree with Jayanti.
Okay, I have another question, which says that how do you do water harvesting on a small scale for like a house in a native place?
Yeah. So essentially, going into the details of rainwater harvesting, you can harvest water for a number of reasons. You could do it just to recharge the groundwater table, and you're doing it entirely for, selfless needs. So you recharge the groundwater table, not for personal consumption. Or else you can start harvesting the rainfall that falls on the terrace. You can divert it to a holding tank or a storage tank, and then you utilize that water after the monsoon season. It's really the reason why you want to harvest the rainwater. So depending on that, there are many techniques. So if it is a small terrace, the water can be diverted to a holding tank that is used later. If it is a little house that has the open space around it, you could just create a very small percolation pit and allow the groundwater table to be recharged. And what is a percolation pit? It could be as small as 6 by 4 feet. Digging it out, creating a honeycomb structure with bricks around it so that it doesn't collapse on itself, and just allowing the water to settle. It's really a very simple technique. And if it is on a larger scale, now you have many architects, you have many agencies that would actually come in and develop a plan for you. So it's very doable. I think we now really need to start first with intent.
Okay, I hope that answers that question. I have two on solar panels. What about solar energy panels in an area where you get heavy rainfall? And another one which links into solar panels is when a solar panel degrades and replaced, how do the panels themselves get recycled?
Two very great questions. I'll start with the first one. So even in Mumbai city, we get a lot of rainfall, but solar panels now are extremely hardy. They are 5th generation panels that will take the impact of high rainfall and heavy rainfall. And we've noticed that even now, when you look at these good solar panels, instead of 365 days, they can actually generate electricity for almost 345 days. So it's only a few days of extremely heavy cyclonic rainfall when solar panels may not generate. During the monsoon, they may not generate up to 100% capacity, but capacity will drop only to about 65, 70% because they will continue generating, because a lot of them now work on a much wider light spectrum. So it's absolutely possible to install solar panels even in high rainfall areas. And answering your second question of, what is the life cycle of a solar panel? Now the panels are, they come with actually 25-year warranties. So they last for many years. And now with the advances in technology, solar panels are being reclaimed. So you can extract the silica from it. So if you look at the solar panel, there are many components. It will have a glass sheet in front, which is the protective panel. So that can be removed. The silica gets recycled. It has a metal support plate at the bottom, which can recycle. And slowly, with time, with advances in technology like Germany and all, are completely recycling their solar panels. So it's no longer just cradle to grave, it's cradle to cradle. And it may not be 100%, but now more and more components of a solar panel are also being recycled.
Okay, that's wonderful. There's one on urban forest. How would you go about growing an urban forest if you have the space?
Very simple. So if you have the space, essentially, my advice to you would be, first and foremost, please select native species. Native species that are hardy, native species that are endemic to that region, and those that will serve an ecological role, either through fruiting or providing shelter. No point getting, exotic ornamentals that serve little purpose. So one is, please select native species. They could be trees, they could be shrubs, but do select natives. Second is, please ensure you have a good watering system in place. Because very often people think, oh, just plunk a tree into the ground and it's going to grow. A little sapling like a child needs to be nurtured for the first few years. So ensure that there is a watering system in place so that they can be watered for the first 1 or 2 years. And if they are large saplings, after that, they'll take off and they will survive on the monsoon cycle. So choose a native species, ensure that there's a good watering regime in place. And then with a little bit of care and right species selection, it doesn't take much to start a little forest. And the trees are extremely hardy. They will take off. They will grow if they just have enough sunlight and water. So it's quite simple, and I would recommend everybody do that. Thanks.
Okay. There's one on electric vehicles. It says electric vehicles are frequently favored these days. However, are they actually sustainable in the long run?
Well, I think as a stopgap arrangement, electric vehicles are going to be there for the future. And as technology improves, the vehicles are improving. They can run, longer distances. And the electric vehicle, that if electricity comes from a renewable source. So right now, most of our electric vehicle charging stations are still being powered by thermal power plants that use coal. So as I said, this is a stopgap arrangement. But I hope someday every charging station is powered by solar, is powered by wind, is powered by a renewable source of energy. And that truly will make electric vehicles more sustainable. And I think with the advances in technology, electric vehicles will soon make way for hydrogen vehicles and will soon make way for more advanced vehicles that are then truly sustainable. But I think I would strongly support electric vehicles. And more automobile companies are putting in a lot of R&D resources into improving that technology. So in a couple of years, I think definitely we'll have more electric vehicles than we have conventional diesel and petrol run cars and bikes.
Okay, quickly 2 more questions. One says on natural resource education for Indian adults who are looking to unlearn and relearn, which easily comprehensible book do you recommend?
One is you could check out some of the CERE books. We have little booklets that very in a very quick way give you the basics on what is waste, how does one recycle, and this is known as the environmental booklet series. Very small. Otherwise, I think these days there is a lot of information out there on the internet as well. There are a lot of good NGOs that are constantly publishing papers. And there are n number of lectures, talks. But I think, as you rightly said, we need to start unlearning. Unfortunately, we are all products of an educational system that did not put environment at the very core of our studies. And only now is environmental education even one subject. but I think it's so important to start relearning all our concepts, where large dams are really not the temples, and mining is not the way forward. So we really need to start unlearning.
Okay, and our last one, which says, are you and your colleagues finding that people are better understanding the consequences of not protecting the environment? If we understand the mutual interest of each of us in this effort, will we get more support for your endeavors?
I think with time, at least in my journey of 20 years, I've definitely seen a shift. When I returned to India and started CERE, everyone only spoke about wildlife conservation. And even if you look at the evolution of the environmental movement in India, it started off as wildlife conservation, which slowly then evolved into talking about sustainable development. Not many people spoke about sustainable development 15, 20 years ago. It's only now that even companies see that we need to ensure that our systems are sustainable. Finally, you can't do business on a dead planet. And I think now, as we see the impact of global warming and climate change, we realize the consequences, because we're really seeing those consequences today. Every corner of the world is being battered by cyclones, by drought, by unseasonal weather patterns. Our ice caps are melting. It is here so visible, so tangible. So definitely, I think there is a greater understanding amongst people. There is more support as an environmental organization. Today, we get a lot of support from forward-thinking corporates, companies who truly are invested in improving the environment. And I think that has made life easier for us. No longer are we those crazy tree-hugging environmentalists. And people realize that we need to walk that narrow middle path, where it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be environment or development. It can be both. And it must be both if we want to survive on this planet and leave behind a planet that can sustain our future generations. I think we have no other option.
I think you're right. I do think you're right about that. There are lots of questions on how to volunteer, Rashneh, for your organization. And I don't know how you want to give out that information. Lots of people want to take part in tree planting drives, etc. So
the best way to contact CERE is really to follow us on social media. If you just Google CERE Mumbai, we have a website. We put out a lot of information when we're undertaking tree plantation drives in monsoon. So if you follow us on Twitter, look at our Facebook posts, you will know the sort of initiatives that are being taken. So most of our plantation drives will be taken up in the months of June, July, August, where people can volunteer. I would request everyone to help us even in our solar electrification endeavor, where if you know of worthy charitable institutions that can be solar electrified, please write to us. Encourage schools, hospitals to write to us. We can try to help them adopt renewable energy. If you know of large open tract of land that we can afforest, or we can undertake rainwater harvesting projects, please write to us, please stay in touch, and that would really be your contribution to CERE. We'd be extremely grateful.
Okay, there's also a request to a talk in Cathedral School, but I think from the photographs you already have done some.
Yes, we've done a talk in Cathedral. We'd be happy to do more. For us, it's not only taking action, it's so important. So every project of ours has an education component. It's no point just, taking action, not spreading the word. So we'd be more than happy to volunteer to undertake more talks and more seminars and lectures.
Okay, and lastly, I think your brother is cancelling his SpaceX ticket to Mars. And then many thanks and many congratulations, and everyone thinks you're doing wonderful work, and we do hope you keep it up. And I do hope lots of people join in with this movement with you, and like you said, we have no option but to do it now. So thank you very much, Dr. Rashneh.
Thank you so much, Perina, and thank you to Khaki Foundation for giving me this opportunity. And I hope all of you can take back at least one actionable plan that you can do for Earth Day. So do give it a thought.
Thank you. Thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.